Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by PlayPicks and The Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at Tuesday night's games here. Game 5, a couple of teams going back home here after 2 games on the road. We got the Heat playing host to the Sixers, all knotted up. Same for the Suns playing host to the Mavs, also knotted up at 2 now. Plenty to look at here, plenty of best bets and player props, which Nate also has on his great article up on playpicks.com. So make sure you are checking all that great stuff out there. And also want you to make sure you like and subscribe to that page. We are bringing you each and every playoff game video, as well as these player props that we love to bring you each and every day of these playoff games. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Make sure you're using that odds checker to shop the best available odds out there. Get the best juice there on those bets for you guys. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, Sixers +3 or 3.5 now at Miami after winning those 2 at home. For the series, they're +125. It was +130 some spots, and that's about where the money line's at for tonight too. So it seems to be some parallel there in terms of if they win this game, yeah, they're probably winning the series. And then the Suns, as they go back home, are -6 against Dallas. Totals at 213 there. Got a total of 209 here in the Sixers game. I'm not really comfortable betting it, considering there's been so much variance with how these teams shoot from the perimeter. And it's really a question of how much do you buy into home road splits, or do you think it's going to continue? I mean, Philly, 22% from deep the first 2 games in Miami, 49% the last 2. And I mean, that to me is not just home road splits, right? It's Joel Embiid being back on the floor. And even though he's not full strength Joel Embiid, he's tipping the floor enough so that they're getting great shots, inspiring confidence and inspiring energy on the defensive end. Held Miami to a 103 defensive rating and held Miami to 21% from 3 after they shot the lights out in game 2. I think that's, it's somewhere between closer to that low number for Miami. I mean, neither of these teams are good 3-point shooting teams, but you look at the personnel Miami trots out there, and if they're not going to play Duncan Robinson, if Kyle Lowry's not healthy, he's like hobbling around on one leg right now. I don't think that 3-point shooting is really going to spike too much as we go back to Miami here. So I actually am. I mean, it's not that I think like on paper a half strength Embiid makes the Sixers so much better than Miami. It's just the nature of how this series is unfolded, with getting that huge lift of him coming back, then you win 2, and now you have all the confidence in the world. And that's exactly what they needed. I mean, that's what James Harden needed. He's a front-running performer, right? And when he feels like he has the arguably the MVP, the 1B MVP right behind him, he can play with that confidence. And finally, down the stretch, he closed the game. 18 points on 4 for 7 from 3 after going 0 for 8 from 3 with 10 points in the previous 3 games in the fourth quarter. So yeah, Harden playing well, Maxey and Danny Green shooting well. Tobias Harris has done a good job on Jimmy Butler when he's able to stay on him. When Butler gets that switch, it's been over, but that's really all Miami's found offensively, right? Tyler Hero suddenly in a slump. Bam finding it much, much harder to score with Embiid out there. And like I said, Lowry not healthy. Oladipo still working his way back. I kind of lean towards the Sixers for the series here. If it's the same price as the money line, I think you take that and have a couple bites at the apple. But I think you can bet the Sixers in 7 at +320. I don't think this team is incapable of winning a game 7 on the road or winning this game on the road at all. They were better against the spread on the road than at home this season. It's a different story with Embiid out there when you can slow it down, when you can tip the floor, like I'm saying, rather than depending on Harden and Maxey to try to carry you in the second half. It's opened up so many more options for Doc Rivers and his staff. Like let's reemphasize this. Doc Rivers gets slammed for his playoff performance, but he has Sam Cassell and Dave Yorger on his staff, 2 guys who could and probably should be head coaches somewhere else. So the Philadelphia 76ers know how to take advantage of the fact that they have Embiid, that they have plenty of talent around him, and I think they'll continue to make adjustments, make it tough for Miami to score. Like I'd be more worried about Miami's offense with Jimmy Butler scoring 40% of their points in these last 2 games than I would about the Sixers continuing to do what they've done with the star power they have out there. If Harden can actually perform down the stretch like he did.
If he can, yeah, big if. I mean, I don't know. The thing I'm looking at in this game here, and I don't think we're necessarily disagreeing, but I think I feel more strongly about the sort of home road splits for both teams, to be honest. Definitely in the way of Miami, in that, you know, this is a team. It's not surprising that it's a team that relies on two stars to create and to break defense down. And Jimmy and Bam, and then shooters are all around them, right? And you need those shooters and also these role players who are the shooters to play well, which they play well at home, and that's what we're seeing here in their home road splits between all these Miami Heat players. Where, I mean, guys like Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, definitely Max Strus as well. You got even Gabe Vincent. All these guys are averaging a bunch more points at home than they are on the road. Jimmy is actually averaging more on the road because that's where he knows he needs to carry his team in the point column, where he actually does have a few more assists at home than he does on the road, because he can't afford to give the ball up when he's on the road, as no one else is really scoring or shooting or doing much of anything. I think also just to finish the point, Philly is the complete inverse, or is the same as that, which means they are the inverse in that when they're on the road, they're players such as, you know, the Danny Greens of the world, even Tyrese Maxey, James Harden is the same, but, you know, all these other guys who score outside of those two, between Embiid and Harden, those guys also put more points up at home than on the road. Now we're going back to Miami, and I just think that's a big tide turner, and I think Bam playing against Joel is something that is actually getting a little bit overvalued in favor of Philly at this point. I don't like Bam to necessarily be able to score and do his thing that way against Embiid, but he has continued to get 8 boards. He has continued to get 3 or 4 assists, and it's just that his points are down to about 15 a game rather than the 17, 18 to 20 in that range that you want from him and what you're used to with him. So the last thing there too, Philly's defense is worlds different at home versus on the road. That's really been the biggest thing for me that I was looking for as well in game 3 and 4, especially once they got Embiid back and I knew he was going to play ahead of game 4. You know, I did feel really good about, you know, Philly's ability to keep Miami from getting to 110 or so, which is right about 108 or so. So yeah, I did feel good about Miami being held to about under 110 with the way that, you know, Philly was playing defense at home, especially in the playoffs. While they have been, you know, just as good on the road as a team in the playoffs, especially it's been at home that they've played defense, and on the road where they've just sort of been given up whatever the other team really wants to do, and really Embiid not stepping up as much in those games either, with some poor defensive ratings on the road as well. So I think that's really, I believe in that, to be honest with you. I am scared because it's been a while since I felt good about Miami. You know, 2 games in roughly 5 days since I felt good about the Miami winning this series. I didn't really, you know, once Embiid came back, it was like whatever bets y'all had on a series sweep or a gentleman's sweep, you should probably rethink immediately if Embiid's going to be back and affecting the game like that. It did come down to a lot of what we said, where it's like his spiritual lift that he brought them. But in game 4, there was a lot more of regressing to the mean of what you expect from him and a team led by him, including the way that you're going to get, you know, the performance you're going to get from James Harden playing off of Embiid, which, as you said, their 3-point shooting is directly correlated to the big man who's not even pulling them. He's just imbalanced, making creating that imbalance on defense.
And hasn't even really gotten going in the paint, right? I mean, Philly does not have that advantage in the paint, but Embiid, as he gets more and more comfortable, he's going to attack more and more. You saw it in the second half of his first game back, and now 24 and 11, getting 13 free throws in the last game. Shot 7 for 13 from the floor. I mean, I think you're just getting so much more value on Philly in this one, in a game that we really feel is a toss-up, because looking at the numbers, it's just like, you're trying to guess how role players are going to perform for Miami as we go back home in that crowd, which is always a little shaky. It's always a little late arriving, not necessarily the biggest lift. On one day of rest here, Miami was excellent on long rest all season. That's why we liked them coming into games 1 and 2 so much, right? They had that rest advantage. Now Embiid has a little, I mean, he's back into shape, so it's less of a case. And look, I mean, the money line, plus 130, or Embiid double in a win, plus 200. Like, what are they're not winning without him boasting double. He's only missed that once in the playoffs. 25 points in a win is plus 265. I think you're just going to lean on the big man down the stretch. That's why we'll see a slower pace probably once again. Game 3 was super slow. Game 4 a little slower, and Philly actually able to burn Miami in transition defense, which I don't think is going to last. Miami allowed 8 fast break points per game coming into this series, allowed 18.5 the last 2 games. So I think if anything, we're probably looking at a low scoring game down the stretch that you could maybe live bet, say it's going to get physical. So that's again why you're getting value on Philly at +3. You say this game could go down to the last shot. Like, it's going to be close down the stretch. I think you want that action on the underdog. And now that Embiid's out there, I don't know if I really consider them the underdog. I consider, I think they have all the momentum, and it's a good possibility they just win 4 straight here and move on to the conference finals.
Yeah, I'm scared of taking Miami's with that spread. I think, to your point, this is a pick 'em, and at 3.5, that means you're definitely getting value on Philly there. You could say they have the 2 best offensive players in this series at this point, and I wouldn't hate that. And I'm not exactly a James Harden stan by any means, but if he's even close to being able to put up that 31-point double-double, near triple-double again, then they do have the 2 best offensive players in this series, and definitely the best, obviously, as the runner up to the MVP again in Embiid. I think I found something I kind of like too. We're not really going to talk about this specifically in player props, although we might talk about at least one of these guys, but there's a +750 prop here for Jimmy and JoJo Embiid to score 30 points, both of them. And I think that's possible for sure. I think Jimmy's proven that he's the guy that he's going to drag his team in offense. Embiid, actually, similar to Jimmy, scores more and shoots more on the road, knowing that he needs to do a bit more in that sense and have a higher usage rate. He is averaging 29 and a half a game in his 3 road playoff games so far this year. He's also averaging a bit more on the road in general over the season. So I think that might be an interesting play right there, because definitely love Jimmy. And if you think JoJo's, Embiid is coming around in terms of his need to score, which he's proven that's what he's trying to do on the road, scoring 9 more points a game on the road in the playoffs, I think that's a pretty juicy +750 right there.